Right then, this is a quick walk around video for a really stunning car. This is a Honda CRZ and it's the sport version. Fitted with a couple of options, notably the little rear spoiler, which is tiny but it just changes the whole look of the car in some ways. But also major one on this is a full black leather interior, finished in red, which looks absolutely stunning on the car. Just 48,000 miles from new, 2013 as you can see. Front of the car, lights and lenses are clear, no cracks or condensation in them. Bonnet of the car hardly exhibits a stone chip anywhere. There will be the odd tiny one, I'm sure, but nothing that jumps out. And what an absolutely striking car it is. It is gorgeous. Near side, passenger side, lovely and clean. Near side front alloy, very good for a near side alloy. Just a couple of minor marks, nothing major. Panel right hand side, absolutely lovely. Near side rear alloy again, fantastic. As I say, with the back, with that tiny spoiler, it's ever so subtle, but it stops it sort of just swooping away. Back of the car again, very clean. And then we come around to the, apologise for that. Off side of the car, driver's side, again, no obvious indentations that I can see anywhere. Side rear alloy, it's absolutely lovely. Panel work, again, apart from, I'm sure there's the odd minor blemish, but they're going to be minor indeed. Final alloy, again, lovely and clean, but it is in really lovely condition. Coming to the boot area of the car, again, all very nice and clean. We haven't cleaned this car yet, by the way, so it's going to be cleaned, but it hardly needs it. Forget the fact that they're a two-seater, because in all honesty, that's the legroom you get, which is next to nothing. As I say in the adverts, just drop the rear seats down, you end up with a two-seater with an enormous boot. It's coming inside the car now, again, absolutely beautifully clean. Leatherwork, black leatherwork, looks like new. It's incredibly clean. Come around on the driver's side, again, door card beautifully clean. Excuse my shadow. Driver's seat in fantastic condition. So inside the car now, as always, I have the engine running for this section, so the dash can be seen illuminated, and dashboard just looks, frankly, as new. It's in just, again, fantastic condition in here. And then that's the view you get as a driver. I mean, I really think this is one of the great dash designs, for all sorts of reasons as it happens. And just to go in there for you, hopefully you can see 48,873 miles, and the only light on is for low fuel currently. But the video just doesn't do justice to what a lovely car this is actually. Finally, just to show you, owner's manual pack and lock wheel nut key, all here and present with the car. Right then, this is a quick road test video, and this is for a Honda CRZ, and it's the sports model. This particular car is registered ND13YCC, and with a mileage just 48,866 recorded. The reason for all of our videos, and especially actually this road test section, is to ensure that if anyone is online looking at any of our cars, they get to see the very car we're advertising in operation. And the reason, as I always say, is because we know to our cost just how frustrating it can be to go and see a car which can look absolutely fine in photographs or description, but only to get there and find out when you drive it, it's got an obvious fault that shows up what's driving the car. So hence that's why we do it. We've also done on these very quiet country roads in this lovely part of Gloucestershire. This actually forms part of the road test route we take our customers on. And the theory behind that is that hopefully then it'll be representative of what you'd feel yourself should you be offered a test drive in the car. So coming to the car, a very well looked after car, quite clearly. It's immediately obvious when you drive the vehicle. Sorry, my keys are rattling away. And before we go any further with the videos, I'll stick my hand up straight away and say I am massively biased. I adore these cars. They're not for everybody, and I'm glad about that. But I just find them such a unique, such an appealing car. But notwithstanding, I will go through all the mechanical stuff I always do in exactly the same way, starting with the engine, or in this case the hybrid and engine, which is genius in all honesty, because as much as anything else, it's because you just own it and drive it like a normal petrol car. It's self-charging, you don't do anything, there's no plugging in, there's no topping up, you don't run out of battery. you just go low on fuel, you spend 2 minutes at the petrol pump filling up the fuel, and you're on your way again, and that's it. Literally, that is it. The whole system is incredibly reliable. People are taking these for massive mileages without any issues at all. It's one of the most reliable cars Honda has ever built, and they make some very reliable cars indeed. But it's also the way it works. It's just so nice to drive. You don't feel the hybrid coming in and out in any way. It's completely seamless in the way it works. It does give you 3 different engine modes to use, if you so wish. You've got Eco, Normal and Sport. Clearly Eco's, it's to extract the most out of the car in terms of economy, and then Normal's kind of halfway house, and Sport just gives you more performance. But the reality is, and as I said in every CRZ video, I've owned numerous of these cars. I simply love them, as I said. The first one I didn't love, and it was nothing to do with the car. It was to do with me, because I wanted to try and match or better what Honda claimed they could get it in terms of economy, which I did, but at the expense of all sense of fun. So I just drove the whole time in eco mode, tootling along, and it kind of spoiled the whole experience for me. Now when I get in the car, I generally just click straight onto Sport, and immediately you feel a completely different throttle response. Engine picks up beautifully, sounds great when it revs. Typical Honda 4-cylinder, absolute jewel of an engine. So you get that kind of sporty kind of induction noise, and it picks up and goes and wants to keep revving like a old-fashioned, sort of Formula Ford racer. That kind of sound to it. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. What you lose in economy, which is marginal, is disproportionately gained in terms of kind of the fun factor. So that's what I always do. There are merits in the others around town and that kind of stuff, but generally I just chuck it into Sport. Coming back to the fundamentals of it, the important parts, there are no warning lights on the dashboard at all related to the engine or any other part of the car. Only light on currently is for low fuel, but obviously that'll go out as soon as a bit of fuel's popped in. Engine then feeds through into the clutch and gearbox. Clutch perfect, as you'd expect with the mileage on the car. Smooth, positive, bike point's exactly where it's meant to be, and that leads you into one of the best gearboxes you'll ever use. And it actually starts with the gear knob itself. It's tapered with these little ridges, got leather on it as well. Your hand falls like a claw onto the gear knob. It is just brilliantly designed for tactile feel. But then the actual gear change itself, oh, joy of joys, it is an astonishing gearbox. It really is. I've always maintained it's one of my favourite gearboxes of all time, and the other two are Hondas, the S2000 and the DC2 Integra. But this, for a front wheel, it is just joyful to use because it's something you want to use. It's Honda know full well that a lot of people when they drive cars, you kind of I've got to change gear. I suppose I'll have to. You got this vague, lifeless, notchy thing. That's the opposite. It is perfection. It really is, and it feels like new. There's no slack in it at all. It's just beautifully, beautifully engineered. Steering on the car. Track's absolutely dead straight. There's no vibrations at this speed or any speed up to legal limits actually. And again, the chassis is sublime. And it's one of those chassis where you get in the car, you think, what on earth is he on about? Because it steers nicely. It's although it's precise. It's the fact that it's so good at all things. The weighting of the steering is brilliant. It gives you very confidence-inspiring on the road. It's got a sort of weightiness to it, an incredible precision and accuracy to the steering at all speeds, all road surfaces. Because some steering can feel great at low speed, but feels slightly detached at higher speed. This doesn't. It feels great at all speed, and as soon as you turn, the car wants to go with it, and it all works as one, absolutely brilliantly well. As I mentioned, the adverts, I liken this car in lots of ways to an old school 80s, 90s hot hatch. the kind of halcyon days of hot hatches, in my opinion, because it feels incredibly light on its feet. It doesn't feel as though it weighs what it weighs, but because all the changes of direction are keen. You don't feel a lot of body mass pushing from one side to the other. It's like a really kind of energetic but well-trained puppy in that sense. And it's got balance, it's got poise. If you're in the mood to really extract something out of the car, it completely rewards. It flows through corners brilliantly well. As I said, body control is astonishing on the car. Not quite sure this job's doing. The flip side to it, unlike a lot of the 90s hot hatches, which would rattle your teeth, when you hit a bump, this is incredibly composed. The ride is as good as most non-sporty cars out there. It beautifully damped, rides the bumps really well, and it keeps everything in check. And there's no kind of noises, no clonks, there's no rattles. The whole car feels incredibly tight to drive, absolutely wonderfully tight. Just need the brakes a good shove while I'm at it. Really nice brake pedal on the car, no pulsing, no vibrations, all absolutely as they should be. And then we come inside the car, so for me it gets even better again, because when you get most cars, even of this vintage, they're pretty much the same things. It's the same dash, it's just variations of exactly the same thing, and they just try and look at slightly different to give you clues to which manufacturer it is. With this, you've got something which is genuinely unique, but is brilliantly designed. First and foremost, superbly put together cars. No rattles, no squeaks. They are bolted together brilliantly, as you'd expect of any Honda. Everything works, the air conditioning's cold, all the gauges, all the switches, all the functions working exactly as they should. Again, we should naturally expect from a Honda. All the switchgear has that wonderful quality that Honda give you. You just know it's going to feel the same in another 20 years time. But then you just got the whole feel inside the car. Because this one's a sport model, but it's got the black leather option, which is lovely on the car, by the way, and in really great condition. Sorry, I should have turned that phone off. But the colourings go really well. You've got the silver light coloured bottom, dark top. The texturing's really nice, but it just makes you feel really, really special when you're sat in the car. Sorry, I've turned that off. If you're like Queen, you're like Seven Seas of Rye, but there we are. But what I love is the fact that it is quite unique. The whole feel inside the car is quite unique. You feel genuinely special. You've got a lovely driving position in the car for a start. You sit low, you've got very natural, anyone can get in and drive and just feel immediately at home. The steering wheel position, the steering wheel design, thickness of the rim, immediately. But then everything's centered around the driver, which I absolutely love. For old dinosaurs like me, massive radio, simple, easy to use. But then you've got these little pods either side, very symmetrical, which is, again, if anyone knows the Hondas know the S2000 does something very similarly, and it works so well ergonomically, because your fingers you hardly have to move your hands to go to any of the switchgear on either side. So you've got your climate control there, various functions on the right hand side there, and then you've got this fantastic display in front of you as a driver, and it is, it really does look to me like kind of almost like an arcade style. The graphics, the colours, it's so interesting. It looks great in daytime, it looks even better at night when it's illuminated. Stunning, absolutely stunning. And what I love, as I said right at the start, it doesn't appeal to everybody. A lot of people get in the car and go, what on earth is he talking about? Just don't get it. I love them. Fortunately, loads of people do. Share my sort of passion and enthusiasm for these things. But to come back to the car, I cannot fault it in any way. It drives, and I hate saying it because it's a complete cliche for the used car trade, but it just drives like new. It feels incredibly tight. Whoever's lucky enough to get hold of this thing will be taking on a very fine car indeed.